Welcome to Empowered Within, a soul-quenching, transformational podcast that will set your soul on fire through candid and inspiring conversations. Leading experts, celebrities, healers, and I share our journeys of how we've overcome challenges to living an empowered life from within. I'm your host, Jennifer Pilates. Welcome to another episode of Empowered Within. Hi there, and welcome to today's show. I am excited to have with us today Renee Schyjer. Renaissance woman, truth seeker, and storyteller, Renee is devoted to sharing the life and legacy of her husband, 80s pop legend Freddy Moore, who was diagnosed a decade ago with early-onset Alzheimer's. For years, Freddy was center stage, a prolific singer, songwriter, and musician who sold out iconic Los Angeles clubs headlining bands like the Police, the Knack, and the Motels. Armed with Freddy's memoir, It's Not A Rumour, a rock and roll journey through life and Alzheimer's and their love story that spans decades, Renee is reaching out to music lovers and their families impacted by Alzheimer's, telling previously untold stories that offer a glimpse into their lives before and after. Welcome to the show, Renee.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It's great to be with you.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you here. And I'm just so intrigued with your book. How did you come up with the idea to write Freddy's memoir?
Well, it's interesting because before Freddy started losing his memory, he started posting on Facebook. He was retired, and so he was just at home all the time trying to work on projects and stuff. And he was posting on Facebook a lot of his stories, and he just was telling people stories from the band days and the childhood and all of these exciting things he did. And so he was having a great time posting, and one of his friends from Facebook said, you know what, you really ought to write a book because your stories are so much fun to listen to. And everybody was really responsive to him. He has a lot of his fans on his Facebook page. And so everybody was listening and they said, let's do it. So I decided, I thought it was a great idea. And at first we tried to get with a friend of his who is a publisher for Alfred Music Publishing, and they actually publish music songbooks. But so he invited us to come down to the NAMM show, and the NAMM show is about music, instruments, and tools for musicians and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, we went down there and we realized it was going to take a lot more to pull the stories out of him than they had the resources for. So I contacted the LA Writers Group, as a matter of fact, and they hooked me up with a bunch of writers, co-writers that could help sit and ask him questions, interview him, and go on and on about things. And we interviewed a bunch of writers, and then we found Shannon Guyton, and she was great. And Freddy and her clicked. So they just started working together. So we just started putting this stuff together. She came to our house. She started asking him questions. And the really interesting aspect of the whole thing was, by telling his stories and having to recall these things from his life, from his childhood, from the band days, from the music, it was improving his memory. It was actually helping him with the Alzheimer's, which is unbelievable because you don't think that would happen. You would think people get frustrated, but by him sitting and just thinking about things and having to go back and conjuring up these old memories, he was really improving a little bit by helping. So the book was a two-edged thing because it was helping him and it was also preserving his legacy by telling his story.
That is amazing and very inspiring to hear because I'll be honest, I actually specialized in Alzheimer's for a long time. The first half of my life, I was involved with assisted living retirement industry. And my grandmother actually had Alzheimer's, so I know it well, both personally and professionally. So I understand that. And that's such a blessing that doesn't happen to everyone. That's an incredible blessing.
And as time went on, they worked together for several years getting all of this information. The book is very large. It's lengthy. It's packed with stuff. And I had also had an idea. I know I'm jumping around, but I had an idea because he wrote so many songs that the names of the chapters could be names of his songs. And then at the end of each chapter, there could be the lyrics to that song, because most of the songs were written because he was telling what was happening to him at that time. He would write a song because the emotion was coming out. And so the songs came out that way too. But yeah, it is amazing that that process helped him with the memory. I mean, there were days where he had bad days and good days. And then some days he would be on fire and he would be like pulling out stories that she was amazed that he would remember this stuff. And then she would call me and confirm. And it was that right? And I was like, yes, it was. So it was really cool.
That is so amazing. So how long ago was he diagnosed?
So I started noticing changes in him in 2010, but he refused to go to a neurologist because I don't think he wanted to accept it. You know, he was really a genius. I know I'm his wife and I love him and he's the love of my life. And I'm not just saying that. He really was a brilliant mind. And he fought it. But in 2014, I finally said, we got to go to the neurologist and get a diagnosis of see what's going on here. So it was actually towards the end of 2014 that he was officially diagnosed. And we had an amyloid PET scan done at that time, which confirms that there's plaque on the brain. And that's the confirmation. So, but, you know, there's lots of things that go into that. He was so hesitant to give up his keys to be able to drive and to not be able to lose all this control, you know?
Right. That's always the hardest part. How did you and he take that official diagnosis once you were there and once you saw the scans?
You know, it's interesting because I scheduled the appointment and then I thought I could go back to work after. That was not true. I was devastated. He was devastated. We cried a lot. And you know what's weird? We just were so sad to lose. So we had such a great story and life and so much love and so much happiness. I mean, I'm lucky that I had it for so long with him, but we were just devastated by that diagnosis. And I don't know why I didn't think, you know, his mom passed from Alzheimer's. It runs in his family. I just didn't think it was ever going to happen to him. I think a lot of us don't, or we're in denial about it, you know?
Right, for sure. And for those out there listening who may be wondering, you know, or thinking like this is happening to my family member or my partner, what advice would you give them as to how to approach, you know, say that they're at the beginning and they don't know what to say or what to do? What suggestions now looking back, you know?
You mean to the person?
Yeah. Or how, if they know like my significant other, I really think is going down that path. I don't know how to bring this up. I don't know what we should do. What do you do?
It is very difficult because you have to remain strong no matter what. You have to be, he would pick up on my emotions. If I was sad, he was sad. And you don't want him to be sad. This is a devastating thing to have to realize that you're going to lose your brain, your cognition, your everything. You know, it's so horrible, but you have to be strong and you have to just say, you know what, everything's going to be okay. We're going to fight this. It's almost like if somebody gets a diagnosis of cancer, you don't want somebody to say, oh my God, what are we going to do? We're just going to give in. We're going to throw the towel. No, you have to say, we're going to fight this. We're going to fix it. We're going to make it better and everything's going to be okay. I mean, that's my approach. I don't know if that's for everybody,
right?
But that seemed to help him be able to say, okay, I can get through today. I can get through tomorrow.
Right.
You know?
I agree. I think that's excellent advice. Now, what steps did you take? You know, what did versus what the doctor may have offered, what all did you do?
Okay. So the first thing I learned, I did so much research. What I learned when he was diagnosed, I mean, I was doing research before, but what I learned when he was diagnosed is 50% of people with type 2 diabetes can get Alzheimer's or will get Alzheimer's. And it has to do with something called insulin resistance. And my husband had type 2 diabetes. And that was not just because, you know, it wasn't type 1, it didn't run in his family, but we both got a little heavy, we stopped exercising. So my number one goal was to reverse that type 2 diabetes. And what I was going to do with that is we got a personal trainer. We started eating clean and healthy and organic. We got this cookbook by Rebecca Katz called Healthy Cooking for the Mind. And it's all these foods that you eat and you make, and herbs and spices and everything you put into your food that's going to help you with your brain and help you with, the healthiest eating, the cleanest eating and stuff like that. So it was diet, exercise, supplements. I went crazy giving him, turmeric and colostrum. We need to build up the person's immune system. When you get Alzheimer's, or even when you have type 2 diabetes, your immune system is weakened. So the best thing we can do is, we're trying to fight this, the best thing from the inside out. So we're going to make our bodies as healthy and as strong as we can. We're going to do everything to build up our immune system. So there was personal trainers, healthy eating. I used to joke, I would only go to Whole Foods. I called it whole paycheck because you spend so much money on everything organic. And just everything. We did a lot of stuff. I tried everything. We played ping pong. I've heard ping pong is good for the brain.
Right.
We did crossword puzzles. We did everything you could possibly do in the beginning before we even got more into with the neurologist giving us stuff to fight things and to improve.
Mm-hmm. Now, at that time in the early onset, did the doctors suggest any medications right away, or were you sort of on your own?
There's a few drugs on the market for Alzheimer's, Namenda and Aricept, and they're really just Band-Aids. They really don't do anything to help, and they have a lot of side effects. So we took a more holistic approach, and we started working with our neurologist, who also was interested in Eastern medicine. So we started with a ton of Eastern medicine supplements, ashwagandha. We wanted to help with the mood. We started doing mindfulness, meditation. We did all kinds of stuff. Unfortunately, he was taking, and I was forcing him to take 22 supplements a day. And the funny thing is it was actually helping. Mm-hmm. It was helping in the beginning. So, it's a lot of work, but I think it's worth it, Mm-hmm. And we were doing things like coconut oil. You want to get rid of plaque. They say coconut oil is good. So he was doing spoonfuls of coconut oil, unfortunately for him. But it was a good fat, so it's okay.
Right.
Good fats are good for the brain.
Right.
Lots of omega-3s.
Lots of omega-3s. Oh, 100%. Yeah, we were doing all of that, just like you. And there's so many resources out there. Throughout the process with the two of you, what have you found to be your greatest resource? One for both of you, but then one also just for you as the caretaker?
Gosh, that's a good question. Our neurologist was great. I did reach out to Alzheimer's Association a little bit when I would have my meltdowns, but it's mostly family support. I swear, my family, thank God for my family. They really got me through this, just being there and understanding what I was going through and going through it with me as much as possible. And I did a ton of research, but it's different for everybody. Alzheimer's is such a weird disease that every person experiences things differently. Mm-hmm. So I did join support groups, and I did do that stuff, but mostly it was my family and my friends.
Such a blessing. I'm so glad that you've had that
totally,
support.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So now take me back to the beginning when you and Freddy met. And then bring me a little bit up to today, to where we are.
Okay. Well, it's a long story. I'll try to summarize. Okay, so Freddy is a lot older than me. He's 17 years older than me. And so my older sister was friends with this girl in high school. They went to Fairfax High School, which is a local high school here. And her friend was named Demi. And so Demi said there was this guy who played in this band and he was amazing. And so they had to go see the band. So my older sister and Demi went to see the band and they loved it. And then my sister would come home and tell me, and I was only 13 at the time, and I couldn't get into these clubs, but she would be like going on and on about this band and how great they were. And I was like, I want to come. I want to come. And so they would sneak me in. I was way too young, but they would sneak me in, and I got to see the band, and I loved the music, and I loved just the whole vibe of it. Mm-hmm. And it was great. So I became really good friends with Freddy and Demi, but mostly with Freddy. Freddy and I had a connection, and I was young. We were just friends, you know, but he decided to teach me how to learn guitar. So I got a guitar when I was 13, and he taught me how to play guitar, and we would just hang out. The four of us would hang out, and then all of the people, you know, that were involved would hang out. And then when Demi became famous, she kind of dropped him like a hot potato.
So so it's fair to say they may have been dating.
They were dating at the time that I met them. And we were friends for years.
Okay, got it.
All four of us, all three of us, me, Freddy, Demi. I was in their wedding. My sister was in their wedding. We were bridesmaids.
Which wedding?
Demi and Freddy's.
Oh, I'm sorry. So if anybody that can't see my face right now, I did not realize, and not a lot gets me speechless, I did not realize that they were married.
Demi Moore got the Moore from Freddy Moore.
Again, mouth is open. Had no idea.
Yes.
How did I not know this? Oh my gosh. Okay, Kim. Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay. So Demi got General Hospital and Blame It on Rio and just started doing all this stuff. And so she was gone all the time, and I was still hanging out with Freddy. By this time, I was like 16, 17. And she decided he wasn't going to make it as a rock star, so she had to move on. And she wanted bigger and better things. No fault to her, whatever. So she moved on, and she moved out. They got divorced, and he was alone, and I was still friends with him. We were just friends. And we would hang out all the time. And finally, he was like, you know, I'm really sad and lonely and whatever. And I said, well, you know, you should start dating. And so he went out with this girl, who was exactly like Demi. And I was like, are you sure you should be dating that? And he said, I don't know. And then I said, well, who should I be dating? And I said, me. So he said, oh my God, okay. So we kind of got together. And it was weird because we were friends, but then it was just the best thing ever. Wow. And
now, how old were you when you officially got together dating then?
16.
Wow.
Yeah.
Such a love story.
A lot older. And my family was totally against it because they were like, he's too old. I'm Jewish. He's not Jewish. And even my friends at high school were like, ew, he's so old. But, you know, he's a young spirit, and I'm the youngest of my family, and I have a lot of older sisters. My parents are a lot older. I was a surprise. So I'm kind of more mature. I was much more mature than my years. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of just fit together. And it's funny because we ran into Demi once, and she said, I always knew you guys would end up together. So, and she does talk about me in her book that I was always there and I was always around. But, oh, well, she didn't want him.
Right.
Anyway, so we had a great time. We just had a great time. He and I we fit like peas and carrots, you know?
Oh, that is so sweet.
It was wonderful. We just had so much fun.
That is such a wonderful love story. I love how that unfolds. And oh my gosh, it's just amazing every day what you learn. Something new. Just
crazy.
Wild.
It is kind of crazy.
It's crazy, but it is such a small world out there in Cali. It really is. Everybody is connected somehow. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how is life for you and Freddy today?
Okay, that is really hard because we're really far into the disease. I mean, I was in denial for a really long time. For I would say the first 5 years, I was in total denial, or even more, that I was going to fix him. I would talk to everybody. Oh, I'm going to fix him. I'm going to fix him. Yeah, I'm going to cure this, even though there's no cure. So, I thought I was, going to do it. But I wasn't. But anyway, so now he's very far advanced into the disease. He's in a memory care facility, and he's been there since 2019. I couldn't take care of him. I did take care of him by myself for a long time. In 2016, he had a stroke. And after the stroke, I couldn't do it anymore. I needed help. So I had a caregiver come in during the day. She would stay with him during the day, and then I would take over at night. But in 2019, he became incontinent, and I could not do it anymore. I was taking care of him. I mean, we're talking 100% everything, bathroom, showering him, feeding him, everything you could possibly do. But when it came to that, I didn't know what to do first. I didn't know what to clean first, and I just couldn't do it. So I moved him into a memory care facility, which is very close to me here, like 5 minutes. So I can go visit him all the time. And the reason why I chose this memory care facility is because I had been taking him there for daycare and for activities because they had a lot of music. And I liked that they had music programs. They had drum circle. They had, music all the time and activities. So that was good. But anyway, now he's very much declined. He barely recognizes me when I go see him. I mean, he kind of does, but he's not really talking that much. And he sleeps a lot, and he just, he has to walk around. I don't know what that is about Alzheimer's. Maybe you know a little bit more, but they have to walk around, and he walks around, and then he sleeps, and he's just kind of in his own world. Mm-hmm. It's really heartbreaking for me to go visit. I can't go that often as I would like to go, but it's just hard on me to see him. Mm-hmm. And to see how much he's aged and how Alzheimer's takes such a toll on the person. It just it dehumanizes them so much. Mm-hmm. And to know how amazing he was, to see what he is now, it's quite devastating.
Mm-hmm. It is. So. And I'm so sorry. I always say this disease is, I've never wished it on anyone.
No,
it is not. Wouldn't. It is not kind. It's not kind to the individual. It's not kind to the family.
No, he would. The only thing that keeps me going is that we did get his memoir done, and everybody can share in his story and know what an amazing person he was. We have a ton of resources for his legacy, and that's mm-hmm. what helps me feel good. Mm-hmm. And that I want to educate people about Alzheimer's, because people are so unaware of how much this takes away from the person and how hard it is. It's like, it's really difficult to say, so did he read the book? I mean, people ask me, did he read the book? Oh, no, he hasn't been able to read for many, many years. Mm-hmm. Well, does he know, this, or does, it's just, they just don't know, and they don't know what to say. And it's hard to know,
Mm-hmm. It is. I wonder, these are just suggestions from my days. Mm-hmm. We would have pictures in an individual's room of the family, and on the back of it, we would always write the person's name and the date so that no matter who came in the room, they mm-hmm. could help have a conversation that way. I wonder, and I'm sure that you've done this, because he definitely could not read his book, but to share and read his book to him.
We have been reading his book.
Good. Good. That's wonderful. So, yeah.
And we do have pictures of me and him mm-hmm. All over his room, and he does point to it, and it's like he'll smile. So he knows that there's an emotional memory that he does know. He knows about me and us and stuff like that.
There is. I think what's interesting about Alzheimer's, I don't know if you found this, is that the body on the inside begins to deteriorate quite quickly. And while the mind is going, it suddenly doesn't go as fast. And then all of a sudden, and I remember when the doctors came in and told my family this, they said, you did too good of a job with your grandmother. You actually kept her too healthy. And we're
That's
like,
what they say to me all
yes,
the time.
they said this to us all the time because, like you, I mean, we did a holistic route, then we did a trial. We had her in a trial. I mean, we really, like you, like we were honed in. We were going to do everything that we possibly could, and we did, I think, plus some, to the fact that that's what they said. We kept her too healthy. She too had a stroke. I think that's there are similarities in some cases when that happens, and it's interesting, and I will throw this out there because I feel like you may be receptive to this. When we went through this with my grandmother, and at the time she was still home, so my mom was the caretaker, the main caretaker at that point, I would go to intuitive advisors, and I would have readings. And the first time that I did this, I had a reading, and the woman was telling me all this stuff about my grandmother and reminding me when I was little and how we would sing and dance. Now, I only had one grandmother who had passed at that time, and I thought, this doesn't match up. So I left, I went home, and she called me, and she said, I have to tell you that your grandmother will not leave until I tell you that this is your mother's mother. Well, that was my grandmother who was still alive. So what transpired was I told my mom, and she was like, well, that's really interesting because your grandmother was acting very strange this afternoon. So I, of course, at this point started going kind of regularly. And every time I went, and I wouldn't tell my mother, she would call me and say, you went today, didn't you? Because for half an hour, your grandmother just sat there on the couch. And that was how I was conversing with her. Because it becomes this, they're still in their bodies, but there's this spiritual aspect that begins to go where you're almost in between worlds. Mm-hmm. It was wild. It was beautiful. I would say it's worth a shot.
I love this idea. I love this. I'm willing to do anything. So,
I mean, I think, and I had no idea going in. I mean, to this day, I don't remember even why I went to get a reading at that time. It wasn't like I was so new to all of this world. It was so amazing to go, oh my gosh. And I wish I knew then what I know now, because I would have been asking so many different questions, but I was just in such awe of it. So, right. I suggest it as, may I throw a life raft of hope, and I think having any kind of hope is wonderful in these situations because it's so challenging as a caretaker and it's so challenging as the individual going through it.
Hi, I'm Esprit Deborah, host of the We Are LA Tech podcast, born and raised in LA. Together, we are unifying and celebrating the Los Angeles tech community. Join us.
There's something there that's kind of scary. I'm going to run towards it.
Half the people walked in and walked out. They didn't even want anything to do with me.
I pulled my 401k and I bought 300 gallons of rosé.
I was making termite bars in my kitchen, I swear to God.
There is literally nothing that's standing in the way except for yourself.
The partner came to us and said, hey, I'll give you $1 million right now.
This is where I've always wanted to be, Los Angeles.
Subscribe to We Are LA Tech, wherever you get your podcasts.
You're exactly right. And it's hard to have hope and to keep that alive because, you just see, it's just sadness. It's just sadness all the time. And I'm not normally a sad person, but I have been for years because of this. Mm-hmm. And so I love this idea. And if you have any recommendations of who you would want me to talk to, I would love it.
Yeah, I definitely, I can send some people your way.
Great.
For sure.
Great.
Yeah, definitely. It's worth a try.
It's worth a try for sure. I love this.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. We're all about helping any way we can. This is, and for some, it's a very long process. For us, it was a very long process. For those that it's a short process, God bless you. And God bless the individual. Mm-hmm. It's a blessing. It truly is a blessing.
Well, because we kind of say he's not really Freddy anymore. There's so much that has been lost of him. And he loved his brain. He loved his brain so much. He really nurtured it a lot. He read, he studied. He was voracious about that. And so what's left of him is so not what he would be happy with, right now.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I know how challenging it is, and I'm glad that you've had your family to support you. And I'm really glad that you've reached out for support, because that's so hard being a caretaker, because you think, well, no one's going to get it. No one's going to understand this.
Right.
You know, and to take that step to ask for help and receive it, you know, I give you great kudos, because it's difficult.
This has been really good. Thank you for doing this podcast, because this is very helpful to me. I mean, talking about this, it's like therapy.
Truly. I will say the other thing that we did, and there's some misthoughts in terms of hospice. Hospice is an incredible resource to have through any stage of illness. It doesn't mean just the ending days. Right. And we learned that with my grandmother, and they were such an incredible resource. I would hands down suggest that, because they came in at a time and just sort of helped guide, and how these angels on earth know down to the hour when things are transitioning is amazing to me. So, you know, that's something else that I truly suggest is hospice, 100% reaching out. They have been amazing. We use them for my grandmother and recently for my grandfather. And I mean, they still call me to check in to say, are you okay?
Wow, that's nice.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, I like that. They've been talking about putting him on hospice, and I was afraid of it. But now that you say this, I think it'll just mean more care.
It's more care, and from our perspective, and I've only really dealt with hospice here in Florida, they came in, and I get goosebumps thinking about it. It was just, sorry, I get emotional. It was just angels. Yeah. Angels coming in to go, it's okay, and we've got this, but we also have you. And I know that at the time, my mother was the main caretaker, and she needed that so much. And they were just so incredible. And then again with my grandfather, I mean, it was just such a blessing to be able to have this support who really knew above and beyond. Like, you think you know because you've been through it with a friend or a friend's family. You're like, I've been there. When you're in it, it's everything goes out the door.
Right.
And it's an incredible resource. The therapy that they offer, the counseling is hands down amazing. Their care.
Wow.
I mean, I definitely, suggest it for your situation, for anyone listening, regardless of, what type of disease or ailment. It doesn't hurt to reach out, because they're an amazing service for that support.
This is great information. Really, I appreciate you so much.
Oh, of course, everything is divine, and this was meant to be.
It was.
Yes, this was very much meant to be. Well, let me ask you this, Renee. Let's switch a little bit. Let's lift our vibration a little bit.
Okay.
What is one thing that maybe no one knows about you and Freddy?
That no one knows. We had our own language.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he made up all the words mostly, but we called each other pet names, but they were made up pet names. And we just had this, we could say things like you didn't even have to worry about I still use these words that nobody would know. It's just like, I still call these things words, and he made up so many funny things. He was so creative. I think the songwriting was just amazing. And he did that with everything. So I think the one thing that nobody knows is that we had an unspoken language, and it's very rare to find your soulmate. This is my first boyfriend and my only boyfriend and husband, and that is so rare, and I am so lucky that I got that.
Incredibly lucky. Now let's look at it this way. How many years have you been together versus how many years have been married now?
Okay, so we've been together, I want to say, 30 years.
Wow.
30 something
Incredible.
Years. And then we've only been married since 2005 because we didn't think we needed to get married. For a long time, we just lived, we had our own apartments, and we dated, and we were just together. And then we moved in together after the Northridge earthquake happened here. His apartment fell down, so he moved in with me. Okay. we were living together, but we didn't get married for a really long time. And in 2005, he said, I really want you to be the one to make any decisions for me in going into the future. And I want to be there for you. So let's, what had happened was a friend of his got into a motorcycle accident and he was on life support and they wouldn't let the girlfriend in. And he was afraid that something would happen, that they wouldn't let me in. And he didn't want anybody else. So that's when we decided to get married. So we've been married since 2005.
Wow. Well, congratulations. That is such an amazing love story and journey and adventure that you two have had together.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's so weird because now I'm so not used to being just me. This is part of why I was really interested in your podcast, because you talk a lot about empowering and becoming the person you want to be and all of that stuff. And I'm now just Renee. And it's weird because I used to be part of this couple for a very long time, very formative years from 16 to now. And now I have to figure out who I am too. Mm-hmm. So it's a whole different journey.
And I would say, if I may, you're not just Renee. You are the Renee. The Renee Moore, the Renee Schyjer. You are the Renee who has lived this renowned, incredible life, incredible love story, who could inspire those who have maybe never even found love yet.
I know. I've met people who've said, I've never had a love like that. I wish I did. I wish I could. And I feel very fortunate. I do feel very fortunate. It is unfortunate what has happened, but I do feel very fortunate to have had what I had all those years.
Right. I always say there is a beautiful blessing in every situation. We just have to really dig for it sometimes.
We do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm so lucky. I wouldn't be this person without him, his encouragement and his support. And I mean, I went to college, I did all these things, and I feel like I would have never been able to get through it without him.
Oh, so what's next for Renee? What's the next steps for Renee?
Well, my goal right now is to do a lot of podcasts and promote the book and just get his story out there, just so that people become more aware of him, of Alzheimer's, of being a caregiver. This is a great thing for me. And having the book, I'm really proud of the book. I think he would be proud of the book. It's the way his story, he wanted it told. So it's sort of like preserving his legacy, but it's also great for me to be able to talk about him and keep his memory alive and to educate people or to share my experience, to go through what I went through with other people and maybe make a lot of connections with this. And I mean, I love talking about it. So I think this helps me and helps me grow. So that's my plan.
That's wonderful.
For right now.
I love it. Well, any way that I can help support you and Freddy, I would love to do that because I understand and I get it and I want to help and support you any way I can.
Thank you so much. I would love it if more people would buy the book. It's Not A Rumour, RUMOUR. And it's on Instagram and Facebook, and there's a page called itsnotarumour.com. There's also my blog. I did a blog a while ago when I first started to get the book going. I started documenting I was blogging every week what was happening with the progression, and my whole story from the beginning to end is on my blog. And that's on itsnotarumour.com. So thank you so much for letting me share that.
Of course. Well, I would say, if I may, Renee, there is another book here in the works that you just haven't even looked at yet.
People have said that. I hope so.
I hope that you're continuing to blog and continuing to open up and doing that, because this will make an incredible part 2 of where does the story go? And then part 3 will be where does Renee go?
Exactly. Yeah, That would be great.
There we go. We just did it for you. I love it.
Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. I'm so honored to have had you on the show. Thank you for sharing your story, Freddy's story, and being so open and honest. I know this is going to help so many of our listeners around the world.
Well, thank you for all of the advice. I love what you told me, and I really appreciate all of it.
Absolutely.
So I feel like you have a wealth of information, and thank you.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful that this was divine, that we got together and that we could share this, and that I can help you and help others in the process. And we'll continue to stay in touch, and we'll get you through.
Great. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Well, as we say, until next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to Empowered Within with Jennifer Pilates. Your feedback is important. It helps me to connect with you and gives me insight into who you are and what you're enjoying about the show. For today's show notes and discount codes from today's sponsors, head over to jenniferpilates.com. Until next time, may you live an empowered life from within.